Well, we'll get this thing rolling with our first prep spotlight of the season presented by Jacobs Insurance. Next up, joining us, our Prep Pigskin Preview, our 3-point podcast coach of the year from a year ago, Steve Herrick. And Coach, we're going to be taking a look at this year's squad, I promise. But I got to ask you, after last year's great run to Ford Field, can you give us some of your reflections on, the team and the community, how just looking back on it, what a thrill it had to be.
Yeah, it was, there's still times and things that come up. We try to, obviously I'm not looking back right now, but throughout entire, January to just about August, where things would happen, people you'd see that you hadn't seen in years, and they'd actually tell you, hey, I was at the game. I was at B-Dubs. I was, I was following you on 3-point. They followed you guys and would listen and pull you guys up just to hear the game recaps, or whatever that was. And I thought that was the best part, and all four of us are hometown Corunna guys, and we love our community and we love the people around it. And so the fact that it brought, not only do we have so much fun coaching and playing, but that it brought so much pride and community back to a great community that we love. That was the second coolest part, let's say. So,
yeah, I mean, you could, being at Ford Field, I'd be curious if did you ever tell your players, I mean, you're in the moment, you're playing the game, but to kind of take a second, like turn around and look up in the crowd and like look at, try and soak this moment in for a second, because I think as fans, you're into the game. We're all hyped up, adrenaline's running. I can't imagine as a player or coach, of course. But, you look around and you're like, this is actually incredible. We're about filling up this whole half of Ford Field. Meanwhile, the Grand Rapids side is, half full or whatever. They're used to making runs to Ford Field or whatever. But did you ever like kind of have a moment or even try to tell your players, like, take a second and soak this in real quick? Because what we're doing right now is pretty awesome.
We talked about that. I mean, we talked about taking a peek, but make sure you stayed focused.
Sure.
Everything about that week, everything about that. I mean, the season in general, but the week, it was. I think from the time I got on the bus leaving Ypsilanti until I got home, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be conservative. I went through about 30 to 40 texts and about 10 or 12 phone calls, both congratulatory and to all the guys I knew around the state. I'm like, what the heck do we do now? What does that week look like? What does that schedule look like? What do we do to make sure? Because the biggest thing, whether I'm in school as a teacher, an administrator, and now as a coach, my thing always is I want the best for the kids at Corunna. I want them to have what other people have. I don't want them to ever miss out on anything. So that was my first thing, is I want to do the best we can, whether we win or lose. And unfortunately, it didn't come out how we wanted, but I want to put us in the best position and make sure they get everything from like what you're talking about, from the just the atmosphere and soaking it in and understanding that this is a lifetime thing for them.
Yeah.
So that they get that, but at the same time, preparing them to play that game.
Right.
So I was trying to do that, trying to have the kids focus. I honestly, I will tell you this, and you'd be surprised. I looked up when we came out, mostly just trying to see where my wife and family were. Mm-hmm. But it was that one look, almost I had to stop looking, and I didn't look again until the game was over to see where people were. But I never had so many people in one spot that I actually almost intimately knew who they were. Yeah. It was. I mean, it's like every one of them was Waldo. When you're
right. It was.
There wasn't somebody almost like I did. I mean, I'm sure there were lots of people maybe higher, but I mean, everywhere I looked, it was somebody I knew from some point in my life, whether as a student or as a coach, somebody I coached, somebody I taught, somebody I lived in the neighborhood with, in Vernon, in Corunna, wherever. And that's what made it. I think that's what made that, and that made it so special. Oh yeah. But I will say this. I mean, the other part that you guys, if you don't want to ask this question, I'll just come out and say it, is that there were regrets. I mean, the not being there part. I'm a visual learner guy. So I have to see it. I have to go through it. And so after doing that, I can tell you, I mean, riding the bus ride home, there was like so many situational things, so many things from pregame choices to actually plays and things we did where I just was like, son of a gun, God dang it,
Sure.
and I could just do this over, which you can't. There's never a do-over in life, but I would do it differently. It was what it was, but I mean, just the things that would have maybe put us in a little better position, because if we would, I truly believe if we would have had a better first quarter, we could have made it a different game. That we came out third quarter just like I hoped. I mean, we came out and played Corunna football third quarter, put ourselves in the position. Got really mad both during the game, obviously, and then post-game press conference. I made a couple comments about the MHSAA. Thankfully, they don't find coaches in high school. That's good.
Right.
I ain't got no money, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, Jared's dad wouldn't be happy about that.
No, no. Hey, Corunna Public Schools, but no, because the thing that upset me the most about that, and obviously that it didn't win or lose the game. It didn't lose the game for us, but it was a contributing factor that really bugged me. Was when we went to the MHSAA's office on Sunday. One of the things they reiterated over and over again about the replay is you need to know these 9 things that you can challenge. There's only 2 that will come from the booth. These 9 things. So make sure before you do it, don't make a mistake. They hammered it home. And it's like, my God, we have 9 things that you want us to remember, but you can't even remember 2.
Right.
Because that play it was not a reviewable call.
Right.
And I don't fault their coach. I mean, Hal had done the same thing. I mean, after they spent 10 minutes, it seemed like a lifetime reviewing it. And then he goes, okay, now I'll review it too. Or telling us they couldn't review it.
Right.
Okay, I'll review it. Well, that's just it's just smart coaching, but
I hope they address the replay. I'm with you. It was the game. It must have felt like an eternity on the sidelines, because it definitely felt like it. Watching the game, the replays, and just how that would affect the game, let alone the actual impact it had overturning calls that shouldn't have been overturned.
Right.
Kind of maybe moving forward, I guess ahead to this year, you've been through a lot of summers and fall camps as a head coach. What's it been like getting the team prepared this year after coming off a year like that? Has it been more difficult, or do you think it's been easier kind of getting the kids to buy in and come every day ready to lift, ready to work? Has it been easier or tougher in that sense?
I think it's been a little bit of both. I mean, I don't think it's been, that's the kind of a cop-out answer, Jared. Sorry about that. But, I don't think, kids are kids. Obviously some kids that are obviously more prepared to play. The older, more experienced you are. So we're a little less experienced this year as collectively as a group. We do have 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. Yeah. But collectively behind those players, we are young and inexperienced. So trying to get them to understand the speed of the game, understand responsibility, understand what it takes, which is another reason why, and I hope it helps, because I mean, it was an up and down scrimmage. We took some lumps and we gave some lumps, but that was one of the reasons why we went up to Frankenmuth. I don't want to step into a scrimmage after the last year that we had and have it be so easy on our kids that they think everything's going to be easy. So we went and scrimmage Pontiac Notre Dame. We went and scrimmage Frankenmuth, and then you throw in a Division III school like Flushing, who's got a new coach. I mean, that was our scrimmage. And if I'm Fowler, I'm probably thinking, okay, we'll see how Corunna's going to be. Right. But we played Frankenmuth and Notre Dame. They're going to be there. They're going to be there in the fall. They're going to be there in week 11, week 12, whatever that looks like, depending on the bracket comes out. And I think I'd rather measure myself against that moving forward, so that kids going back to your question, Jared, have a realistic view. And so I think it helped them, be honest about where they're at, and what we have to do to get better and be successful this season. So.
Well, you noted it a little bit there, Steve. You got 7 starters back on both sides of the ball. You did definitely lose some top-notch talent, but as a head coach and a head of a program, you just want to refill those holes. Now, if you look at your team this year, and at least me as a broadcaster type, I know how important it is on both sides of the ball on the line of scrimmage. And you got some studs there. You got 3 studs you can build around, and Merva, Brieger, and Cody. And I don't know who else you got filling in beside them, but that's a good starting point, isn't it?
It is, and that's, Scott Moeller, who we all know, he used to always try to convince me, maybe because I was coming in, I played running back and receiver and stuff. And he's like, well, hey, Steve, it's at the line. I'm like, yeah, well, okay, if nobody's running the ball, then what the hell do you got,
Right.
But we're gonna really see this year. We're gonna start with a really good offensive line. Not only do we have those 3 guys back, Brendan Yarmouth started at center last year, but Colton Beela got a lot of time at center as well. I think, and I'm saying this tongue in cheek, so if Colton ends up watching this, I'm sure he will. The only hard part for Colton sometimes is he's one of the top long snappers in the entire state. So making that exchange with the quarterback, he's got to take a little fire off it sometimes.
Right.
And making sure he doesn't just burn it through Caden Cowdery. And then our left tackle, I think if there's one thing that always seems to be the case, at least some point in my coaching, is that we always seem to need a left tackle. Now, last year, Austin Oginski did a great job, but my first year back in 2021, we had 3 or 4 offensive linemen, and God, where's that left tackle? Back when Matt played, where I was like, where's that left tackle?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if Coach Bellick is listening, he knows he can't lie. He played left tackle, and we're still looking for a left tackle. But Jaden Barker, Tyler Lunston, Levi Miller, we got a couple guys that we're looking at that are juniors. Actually, Malachi Anderson's a senior, and Tyler's a senior. But we have 2 juniors, 2 seniors looking to fill that hole there. And they're an incredible unit. Dane Zeman's back as our starting H-back. So, he's there as well. Sully Martin played some backup. He's a big, tall, lanky kid, but who can catch the ball. And he's back there as well as an H-back. So, up front, everything starts up front. And that's if you're going to have something, I guess if you can't have the dynamic quarterback back again. Caden's going to be a very good quarterback for us. It sounded bad, but somebody like Wyatt Bauer back, then definitely let's go with it.
That's not taking a shot at anyone. Wyatt's going to be running Tony Anese's offense here at some point. So it's a pretty good compliment, actually. You talked about not looking back, but it's obviously hard not to. At some point you probably still look back 20 years ago when I was playing or when you were a player, things you could have done differently as a player to prepare or things you could have done differently 20 years ago when you're a head coach. So I think that's just natural, but you're going to build off of last season, right? That's an awesome experience for those kids and the coaching staff to go through the whole process.
It is, I think you do bring up a good point, Matt. I think but most cases as a coach, obviously we're more pessimistic than we are optimistic about a lot of things. So more often than not, the lessons that we're going to, or the things that we'll look back on, I should say, are the lessons that they can learn from what necessarily didn't go always right, even in our best season as far as going to the state championship game. Hey, listen, I know we did win that game and we went here, but what we didn't do right that you can do better is this. Right. And even tonight, we watched film tonight and had our group together. And one of the things I told them was, listen, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 10 years from now, you can look back on what this season looks like and talk about it. You can talk about what happened last year later. We got to focus on the present. We have to focus on what we're doing now. Otherwise, those conversations won't necessarily be as fun. You're going to be able to talk about Frankfurt. You're going to be able to talk about, all the fun things you did, in different places and times that we do. We try to build a complete program and a lot of fun things outside of football as well. But ultimately, you want to be able to talk more about the football games and the ones you won, and versus just talking about the periphery stuff that makes it cool, but not what football's all about. So.
It's a lot more fun to say that we played at Ford Field and the whole town of Corunna was sitting behind us than, oh man, we went 5-4 and just missed the playoffs. 20 years from now, when you're at your class reunion, like Ted just was at his 50th.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to talk about.
Sure.
It's a lot more fun to talk about that. I got one more for you. I know Jared wants to jump in. You talked about building a complete program. Yep. And I think that's something we've talked to you about this before, but I think it's so cool to see how far Corunna has come in that sense, because back when, I was going through, kicks was starting up, but it wasn't a top down full on program all the way down to the 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, running Corunna football, the same offense, the same defense type of thing. And I know because I still have some friends who coach youth football and are still involved a lot, back home. So they keep me up to date. Yeah, that's going on, and how cool it is for those 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th graders to watch those seniors. I mean, I still remember vividly going to Atwood Stadium and watching that team in the mid 90s play at Atwood Stadium. And that was such a big thing as a, 10, 11-year-old. I could do this. When I get up to varsity, I could be out there like these guys are. How big is that for those, hopefully you're still the head coach in 10 years or, I don't know what your plans are, but, for those young kids, to see Wyatt Bauer out there, to see Jaden Eddington, and then now playing at Ferris State and stuff like that, that's huge. I mean, that just makes those kids want to do that when they're on varsity.
100%. And that's, that's where it all starts. And I think that's what, I share with any coach that asks, about what do you guys do? And what, can you give any tips? And I said, get your youth going. I mean, no matter the sport, you have to have, that's where it starts at. And like you're talking about, it's the buy-in. And I would tell you that it's obviously kids in Corunna enjoy, being in Corunna and playing football for Corunna. But, it has a lot to do with last year too, but we have record numbers right now in our youth program. That's cool. My seventh grade son, Griffin, his I'll give you kind of a little sample. He has an anomaly school. In his class is an anomaly. They only have 100 kids, smallest class out of 13 classes, 13 grades in Corunna, smallest one by far. And so they have about 62, 63 boys out of the 100. And his football team has 32 boys on it.
Wow.
You start doing the math on it, you go, holy cow, but we average 30 kids per team. Our eighth grade is the smallest one. They have about 25 kids, but we have 31, 32, 33 kids at the fifth grade level, the sixth grade level, the seventh grade level, and the fourth and fifth grade level. Which ideally we just don't have the resources for 3 teams, but we have over 50 kids playing third and fourth grade football. So you're talking 25 kids on a team. On top of that, one of the things that I did in 2015, we had a gap. And another one of those things that I was talking about earlier, where I don't want our kids to miss out. I want our kids to have every experience that anybody else has. There was a gap there where our younger kids weren't playing flag football. They didn't have a league for that. So in 2015, I started a flag football in conjunction with the Corunna Youth Football Program. We had 22 kids that first year. And last year we had 93. Wow. Kindergarten through third graders playing flag football. And so it's just a great thing. And that funnels in, you get those kids in third grade that aren't ready to play tackle football yet, but they may want to in fourth and fifth. It also has been a great thing. We also get 10 or 12 girls that are playing. And this, obviously Chris Fritching and the Detroit Lions have made a huge push for that. We'll see how that evolves in the future. Chris is a good friend of mine. But the huge push with the girls flag football, growing across the country. So hopefully down the road, that's something that we can have as well in Corunna, but we'll see that. But you build the program, you build teammates of yours, friends of yours that, they have, I know exactly who you're talking to and about, because I see them on weeknights in the practice fields behind the high school and yesterday we had a big scrimmage at the high school, went from 7:30 in the morning till 8:00 at night, believe it or not. Wow. So it was crazy, but it was awesome.
That's so fun.
It is cool to see the youth program, because maybe not every team that comes through Corunna is going to be able to make it to Ford Field, but it's definitely going to raise the floor of this program, and it's going to create a nice basis from when I was a kid, when watching 0-9 teams go through. Hopefully now it's, every team is going to be pretty darn good. So that's exciting. Right. Looking ahead to this upcoming game coming up on, do you guys play Thursday or Friday?
We're playing Thursday night.
Thursday against Fowlerville. I know you're just kind of starting your prep for that game, but what can you kind of tell us about Fowlerville, and what do you think maybe a couple of the keys are going to be to end up winning game number 1?
Well, the cool thing about playing Fowlerville, and it's true with this team for sure, is that all the names, and it's just like Matt's talking about with 2000, the younger guys, but Fowlerville, they got Schraders and Copelands and everybody else coming through. It's just like being playing Corunna. You got Herricks and everybody else. All these old names coming through that keep rolling by. And so Matt Copeland is the head coach now at Fowlerville. Matt Copeland, he's the same age as my brother Rob, who's assistant coach. And actually they got together last year before the game, and Brett Schrader's a defensive coach there, and he played. All three of those guys played against each other. And probably, Ted, I don't know if you did the game in 1993. it was a freezing cold game. Corunna ended up winning 8-7 on a crazy 2-point conversion.
We have it. Yep.
And actually, Fowlerville and Corunna were probably two of the best teams in the state, but you only took 4 from that. It was 4 in that region. And you're talking now there's about 495 11-man schools in Michigan now. And in 1993, you had about 800. Wow. So, I mean, when you're talking about, instead of having like 30 teams in a region, that's not true. It'd be 60 or whatever it was. I mean, it's almost double the number. So you had those two teams. They both finished 7-2, and both of them missed the playoffs. But it was just a tremendous football game. But Copeland and my brother, and they're all on there. And I think that's what we're going to expect. Fowlerville is a tough team. They get after it. They do. We're back to seeing. Matt remembers this, Jared. I don't know if you do. I think. Did we play Fowlerville, Jared? I forget.
We lost. Yes.
Okay, that sucks. But I think they got away from it when you were playing. But they're back to doing that same old thing. I call it the Fowlerville thing, where whether the play's good or bad, they sprint over and congratulate each other.
Right.
And you can tell that's their history. That's what they do. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's Fowlerville. That's what they do. But Matt's a great coach. He's a tough-nosed guy. I mean, the Schrader kids. You got 2 Schrader kids for Fowlerville. One's a junior, one's a senior, I believe. One plays quarterback, one plays as a backup quarterback, running back. Another one's a receiver. They're good kids. The quarterback's decent. I think his last name's Soley. He's number 4. I listened to him talk on a different podcast because I had to follow him on something, but I know he was talking about their offensive line being a little bit of their concern for them. They have guys, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, right.
He said it's one of those things when you ask the coach, okay, if you had to pick a spot, so that was the spot he picked. That's I don't mind that. Because we're strong there. It's rather than matching strength for strength, maybe we can help out a little bit there. But we have, but on the other end, our secondary, our receivers, they're young, so that's going to be a spot where we have to grow up really fast. And but it'll be a good game. I don't think it's definitely not going to be anything like the last couple of years where we were significantly better. I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game, and it'll be like a Fowlerville Corunna of the past. We'll see what happens. So.
Good matchup, good rivalry. It goes way back. Even in the 60s, I remember Fowlerville and Corunna back when Nick Anise was coaching. I'll leave you with this, Steve. Kids do like to hear their names on radio or podcast. On the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned a little bit, Caden Cowdery. How's his development? I mean, he obviously impressed us last year in some limited action, but some big-time pressure action against Goodrich. How's his development? Then I got to follow up after that, and then we'll let you go.
Sure. No, Caden's doing well. Actually, when Tony Neese came down for the Ferris camp, he came down and did one for us in Flushing at Corunna, which is really cool. That's cool. They were impressed with Caden running the option. I think that's probably his best attribute. Not that he doesn't throw the ball well. I mean, he can throw the ball, but which you did see in the Goodrich game. But excuse me. But he runs the ball really well. So I mean, we're looking forward to that. He does that really well, and gets kids involved. He's not a one receiver guy, so he'll look to find the open receivers and throw there. But we just want to get him confident, which he has confidence. But Jared, it doesn't matter whether you're a junior or senior. When you step on the field for that first varsity game as a starter, it's you can think of what you think it feels like, but it never feels that way, does it?
Right.
No. And I was going to also ask Steve. I'm sorry, Jared. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say on the defensive side of the ball, you mentioned it a little bit. You're young in the defensive backfield. Bryce Eddington, he's a two-way good player for you, but you got some holes there. We'll see question marks how the new kids step up. Linebacking, Zeman. I mean, I call him the demon, man. He'll be all over the place. And then you got those 3 guys on the defensive line. So that secondary is the only thing I look at defensively. A little bit of a question mark. How's that coming along?
Yeah, no, it's a development. It's a work in progress. We have athletic kids back there. Lucas Curran came on at the end of the year, had to play some, definitely in the playoffs more than we anticipated. With, if you remember, Caden Cowdery got injured and got a concussion in the Notre Dame game. So Lucas came in and played in the playoffs. So he's going to be back there probably at the free safety spot. Caden will play as well. but obviously, we don't have one of the things we don't have this year as opposed to previous years is we don't have an established backup.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, you had my son Jaden, and then here's Wyatt. And then, last couple of years, Wyatt and Caden, and we were solid. And now, we have people playing, we have a backup quarterback. But we don't want to necessarily throw them out there and have a situation happen where now, we're stuck with that. So, but, we also have a couple younger guys that have really shown well during the summer. Oda Wilkerson, surprisingly, and I'd say this very, my son Logan Herrick has actually played pretty well. I know probably my kids will tell you I'm the worst person in the world to play for. Anybody else?
Well, typical.
If for anybody but their dad, they'd probably be a lot better off. But it's his unfortunate choice that he made. But Logan's been doing pretty well. So.
All right. Well, listen, Steve, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being a part of this special podcast, and good luck to the Cavaliers. And we'll definitely be checking in with you. And the first game is going to be on the radio for anybody that can't make it, but I got to believe there's going to be a whole lot of people there at the Nick.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly hope so. And it's great talking to you guys. We'll see you soon.
Right. Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.